Defensively, that's a good sign as the road gets narrow. But the other turnover we got there at midfield, Y.A. Black, in a short yardage circumstance, we lost that possession on a turnover on downs in the subsequent drive. And so, when it's good on good, that minutia is often the difference. As I mentioned, we were able to take the ball away from them, and that's something that they excelled at on offense. I think they had 6 turnovers over the course of the season. We got 2 big ones, but we also had an opportunity at some other ones that didn't come to fruition. We had a turnover right before the half get taken away because we were offsides, and if you remember, they settled for a field goal on that drive, and the outcome of the game was 3 points. And so these are some of the things that I previously mentioned is what I mean when I talk about there's often a lot of irons in the fire in terms of how games unfold, how you engineer victory. And that's why we talk about all 3 phases, putting together comprehensive plans and coordinating those efforts in the effort to find that type of synergy, that type of complementary football that allows those things to happen. From an injury standpoint, man, we got a couple things to talk about. Broderick Jones has a neck injury. He'll be classified as out this week. I'll have more information for you the next time we get together, but certainly he'll be classified as out this week. Same thing goes for Derek Harmon. He sustained a knee injury in play, was able to finish the game, but he'll be characterized as out this week. Optimistic about a couple returns. Aaron obviously, man, worked his tail off to get to us last week, but as I mentioned, over the course of the weekend, it was a prudent and appropriate decision. We'll start this week with great optimism, although we certainly will limit him at the early portions of the week, provide opportunities for the other quarterbacks while preserving him. But again, we're comfortable with the general trajectory, but I'll keep you updated, and his level of participation and the quality of his participation over the course of the week will be the greatest indicator. Same thing can be said for Alex Highsmith. He's been out the last couple of weeks, but we're optimistic as we start the week about his inclusion this week. A couple of guys that are managing some in-game things from last week that may be limited at the early portions of the week, and we'll see where their participation leads. Joey Porter with a hip. DK Metcalf got his ankle rolled, but he was able to finish. But again, certainly will probably limit him at the early portions of the week. And the same thing for Ben Skoranek with a shoulder. Now on to Buffalo. Man, really excited about this AFC matchup at Acrisure Stadium. Man, things are tight in the AFC. They're certainly a viable group. It's a big ball weekend here in Pittsburgh. And so I'll start first with their offense. Josh Allen, man, what a competitor. We talk a lot about his talents, his legs, his arms, and things of that nature. But it's the intangible quality that really captures your attention as you study tape. His ability to rise up in the moment, his will, his competitive spirit, how he finishes plays, whether it's scramble plays to keep passes alive or, when he chooses to pull the ball down and run. You got to be really conscious of what you do schematically in terms of how you rush him and how you support that rush with the coverage behind it. Because, again, his ability to extend plays without negativity, his ability to break you down with his legs, certainly we've seen over the course of this season, and certainly we've seen firsthand over the course of his career some of the games that we've been in against him. Man, they're running the ball extremely well. Certainly he's a component of that. But, man, Cook is doing an awesome job. He's almost got 1,100 yards. I think he's number 2 in the league in rushing. He averages 5.4 per carry. He's got 8 touchdowns. He's a bell cow for him and really has been for a number of years now. I think he just got a big contract at the start of the season, and he and they are certainly reaping the rewards of that. He's got an awesome fullback. We don't often mention the fullback in today's game, but Reggie Gilliam out of Toledo, man, has been there, I think, since 2020. He's playing really good football for them. Is a major component of what they do in the running game. Oftentimes, statistics don't bear that out, but guys like he and 85 Halls, man, are significant contributors to the number 2 rushing attack in football. In terms of the passing game, Josh has certainly got a lot of eligibles to throw the ball to, receivers and tight ends. He distributes the ball to open people. The depth of their group is a challenge. They spread the ball around. They formation you. He works the interior portions of the field very well. Certainly, that's been an area that's had our attention over the last several weeks. Man, we've given some things up there. They got talented tight ends in Kincaid and Knox that are capable of working that portion of the field. They got solid receivers outside. Can't say enough about their slot receiver, his ability to win one-on-one matchups and break people down. He can turn short to long. They throw bubble screens and things of that nature. Jets, man, they got some people that can take minimal risk schematic endeavors, man, and turn them into big plays. And so, as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Josh, man, they're a great possession down group. We got to have a heck of a third down plan. We got to work to get off the field and get them off the field. But his talents are a major component of that. And so we got a lot of things to face on that side of the ball. On defense, they're a continuity group. Boy, they've had a collection of people there for some time, and even some of them are doubling back for a second stint. Tre'Davious White and Poyer, for example, are two guys that spent a lot of time there that have gone on to other places and doubled back. I think they value that continuity. It allows them to do a lot of things schematically, particularly in the secondary. I think they're number one in the league in terms of passing yards per game, and it speaks to that continuity. That collective, man, a lot of their talent and spent a lot of time there. Can't say enough about their safety 2-4, man, out of Utah, man. He's doing a lot of really good things and contributing in a variety of ways. He may be their leading tackler. I think he's got 3 sacks. He's also got 3 interceptions. He's a good pressure man on first and second down in an effort to minimize your running game. He's a good pressure man on third down as well. It starts up front for them. They've always been a 4-down group, and they've always allocated a lot of resources there. It seems every year they're acquiring some really established rusher to round out their depth in that space. It's been, Leonard Floyd over the years. It's been Von Miller. This year, obviously, is Bosa. And they certainly already have enough talent in that space. But I think it just speaks to their commitment to fortifying their talent and depth up front. They play behind their rush. Those guys wreak havoc. They do. They're challenging in the C and D gap area in the run game because oftentimes those guys are a lot bigger than the tight ends and so forth that generally play in that space. That's one of the reasons why we deploy some of the schematics that we deploy out in that C and D gap area with Darnell Washington and Spencer Anderson, for example, because guys like Russo are just, oftentimes too big and long to block in the running game for quote-unquote normal tight ends. And so, man, we got a lot to be excited about. We got a lot, obviously, from a challenge perspective. It's a big ball weekend. We show our respect to that with how we prepare. We're doing so right now as a staff, and looking forward to continuing that with the players tomorrow as we lean in on prep. I'll pause and open up for questions.
Mike, was one extra week or a week off enough to alleviate any concerns / fears you might have had about Aaron with his wrist?
I think time will tell. There were so many unknowns last week because it just is lack of work during the course of the week. I think that there'll be less unknowns regarding that topic, and that's what makes this week an encouraging one, and that's why we're hopeful.
The determining factor there is safety. For him, was that a determining factor in pulling him out?
It was just the appropriate thing to do from our perspective.
How much physical work does Aaron need to get to be able to play on Sunday?
Again, what he needs and what others might need are certainly different topics of conversation, but we don't focus on bare minimum in terms of what he needs. Our goal is to, proceed with caution appropriately, while at the same time giving him all the work that we can afford to give him. And so we're just certainly going to live that day by day. He clocks in and visit with Gabe and the training staff every morning, and we kind of build a plan from there.
You need to see him take more snaps under center to test that risk.
Again, we'll see where the week leads us.
Mike, with Derek Harmon, is this the same injury that he dealt with in the preseason, or is it
It was something that happened in game last Sunday.
Was it the same knee or the other knee?
To be honest with you, I'm not even certain. He was able to finish the game, and so it wasn't on my radar when I visited with you guys post-game, but it certainly turned up on Monday morning, and that's why I just want to be transparent with you.
Mike, how do you feel about your depth there, specifically with YA and how he's grown?
Really encouraged by his growth, man, and I think his play time is kind of reflective of that. But we like our young D linemen, and we've acquired a new one in Broderick, and so sometimes guys will get an opportunity. One man's misfortune is another man or another men's opportunity, and so we're encouraged by the depth that we have at that position. We'll take the collective through the week. We can see who can execute, detail, and I'm sure it'll be more than one person. It often is when we're talking about losing somebody that's starter caliber.
Mike, how do you balance maybe the competitive nature of a guy like Aaron, who obviously really wants to be out there and play, versus what you feel is right in terms of safety and just the long-term benefit for the team?
I think first and foremost, you lean on the advice of the medical experts. I'm not going to take his competitive spirit and his will to compete as a negative. Those are positives. But certainly, it's our job as leaders to exercise appropriate precaution. And first and foremost, for me, are the opinions of the medical staff.
When you look back at it, where do you think you guys could have been better in your red zone defense against Chicago?
There are a couple calls you'd like to have back, certainly. There's some detail that you'd like to have back. But oftentimes that's just the case. It's not, one glaring thing. It's popcorn. It's minutia here, minutia there. Man, we'd like to be in a different call under this circumstance. We'd like to have someone better positioned in that circumstance. And I think that's kind of reflective of the red zone output last week.
11 games, big picture, offense or defense. Do you find that you are dealing most often with those popcorn elements, or do you find that you are coaching around or still trying to coach better shortcomings?
It depends on the circumstance, and what I mean by the circumstance is oftentimes who you compete against, the nature of that matchup. Their schematics is a component of that discussion. Player availability within the 11 weeks, who's available, who's not available, and how that might impact your strategy. And so, it's difficult to paint with a broad brush, but I'll say largely, generally it's a combination of all of the above.
As you look for more